Representative Woodall, how do you suggest paying off the national debt?
Tonight, Jim, because I've just come up with a new proposal. It's hard, right? I don't want anybody to think that it's happening tomorrow. It's not. I wrote the budget in the U.S. House of Representatives on your behalf that balanced the fastest of any budget that was introduced. Balanced in 4 years. I couldn't get there any faster than 4 years, but I couldn't get enough votes to pass a budget that balanced in 4 years. The best budget we could pass in the U.S. House, and this is a conservative U.S. House, was Paul Ryan's budget that balanced in 10 years. So you're talking about paying off the national debt, Jim. We're talking about continuing to add to the national debt for the next 10 years as being the very best proposal that we can find 51% of the members to vote for. The Senate has never passed a budget that balanced, period. We vote on every budget that's introduced in the U.S. House. Not one budget on the other side of the aisle balanced, ever. We've got to win the battle of the people here that believes it is immoral to tax our children with debt rather than tax ourselves with a new tax bill today.
Mr. White.
In order to pay down the national debt, we need to do two things. One, we need to make sure that Congress is responsible with its spending, and frankly, right now, it's not. And it hasn't been in a generation. And two, we need to actually grow the economy in ways that brings back the American middle class. In order to do that, we have to bring manufacturing back to America. We have to do something to lighten the $1.75 trillion a year in regulatory costs that Congress has imposed on U.S. manufacturers. We need to do something to relieve the tax burden that Congress has imposed on both workers and businesses. We need to do something to change the game entirely. I'm not talking about playing at the margins. I'm talking about changing the game.
Folks don't get a chance to hear much good news out of Washington, so I want to give you just a little bit. For the first time in anybody's lifetime in this room, we've spent less at the federal level, not 1 year to the next, but 1 year to the next and the next year back. We've lowered total federal spending 2 years in a row, first time ever. For the 1/3 of the budget that Congress has control over, it's gone down every single year I've had your voting card. Not in inflation-adjusted dollars, but actual dollars. The job as a congressman is not to get everything you want today, it's to get something every day and to saddle up again and ride tomorrow for more.
Next question is for Senator Miller. Senator, what is the Senate's greatest challenge, and what would you do to meet it?
I think it's the entire General Assembly's greatest challenge right now is to deal with transportation. I anticipate when we go back in January, those of us who get elected, that one of the first things we'll do is take the fourth penny, which right now goes to the general fund, and dedicate that to transportation. But that's not adequate. That's only $180 million. Right now, the Senate, as a matter of fact, is running a Transportation Study Committee, and we're looking at all the options about how we can raise enough revenue. Because we've got cars, okay, that get higher miles per gallon. We've got electric cars. We've got to figure out a better way in order to be able to get revenue for transportation. It's the biggest issue that we face here in the metropolitan area. The good news is I think we're also looking at regional transportation, and between MARTA, Cobb Transit, Gwinnett Transit, and Greta, and we're seeing a lot of cooperation there, and I've seen a lot of progress. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge, and one we have not dealt with since the SPLOST failed, which, by the way, I did not vote for.
Ms. Johnson.
Well, I'm going to say, I want to say education, but I think I've talked enough about that, but I'm going to say health care. I think that when we have rural hospitals across this state that are closing, we have people that are using the emergency room as their means of health care, that is where I feel like we should focus a lot of our energies on making sure that people, when they're sick, they get the preventative care that they need, and just take care of our people. That's where I think that's the biggest challenge.
Senator, rebuttal.
I think those are both two good initiatives, health care and and transportation. You know, I'm on the Governor's Child Welfare Reform Council. We're doing a lot with foster children, children welfare. We've already reformed juvenile justice under Governor Deal. We've also reformed criminal justice. So I think we have to continue to focus not on the social areas, as what Tamara just said, but I do believe, and we go back here, the public demands we do something about transportation in this metropolitan area.